Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 73 of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and with me as ever is my partner in crime.
Yep, Santoki here, and regular listeners and viewers will have known for the past few weeks, I've been giving a big talk about Guyana Amazon Warriors. This has been the year we're going to win CPL finally after 10 years. Unfortunately, things haven't gone to plan, so we're moving the spotlight away from the Amazon Warriors today, and we're looking at a franchise who have been doing well in the CPL this year. 4 wins out of 4 so far. So it's an absolute pleasure to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of not only the Barbados Royals, the Rajasthan Royals in the IPL, and the PAL Royals in the South African T20 League, which is starting early next year. So welcome, Jake Lush McCrum. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. And it was great to see so many of the Royals family in your little intro video as well. So I feel in good company.
Great. So we're going to get started. And I guess the stereotypical view is for a lot of people, a CEO of a company is generally someone in their 50s or 60s, an Alan Sugar type of person. Now, unless you have an amazing skincare routine, I'm pretty sure you're not in that age bracket. So it'd be good to ask, who is Jake Lush McCrum? What has been your journey in cricket, and what led you to becoming Chief Executive Officer of various franchises?
No unbelievable skincare routine. It's been a fun journey, that's for sure. Basically, about 5 years ago, actually a bit more than that now, the lead owner of the Rajasthan Royals, Manoj Badali, he also owns 20 technology businesses. He's an entrepreneur. He's built them up from scratch. And I actually worked with him first in one of his businesses. And then I was in the investment arm advising 5 or 6 of them, doing M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions, looking to build business plans with the CEOs of those companies and really understanding how different business models worked in different industries and how to really scale companies effectively. And then, five or so years ago, he came up to me one evening and just says, "Jake, can I have a word?" It was about 9 o'clock at night. I was the only one there. I was a little bit nervous. And then he just goes, we stop before we even get to the office. He just says, "Hold on, we'll just chat here." And he goes, "Jake, do you want to go to India?" And I was like, okay, that's a little bit different. Could I get a bit more information, Manoj? And the Royals had been out of the IPL for the 2 years preceding that conversation. So he said, "Look, the Royals are relaunching. I want you to go out there and work with the chairperson, Ranjit, and basically relaunch the franchise, re-engage the fan base, bring across our business building learnings, bring across UK, US digital innovations, and start that transformation journey." And it was meant to be a 5-month sort of consultancy. And thankfully, the chairperson, Ranjit, has been an amazing mentor to me. He pushed me into every area of the business in that 5 months. So I did sponsorships, digital, merchandising, cricket ops, everything. So I got to understand all the intricacies of the business, which meant as I progressed through, I sort of know where the challenges we face can be. And also I know the opportunities where we can scale. And then over the following sort of 5 years, I've aimed to drive that digital transformation piece. And we're now number 1 in the world of sport in terms of engagement rate across all social media channels. So I think that's amazing, really, to be beating NFL teams, NBA teams, Premier League teams. The team that we've got has just done an awesome job. They connect with the fans better than anyone else. The RR admin, you will probably both follow and enjoy the sort of banter that they share. And my favorite stat around it is when IPL retention happened last year, the only player to get more engagement than our admin being retained, so we did a little skit around the admin being retained, was MS Dhoni. Kohli got less, Butler got less, everyone, but the RR admin brand that they've built has been awesome. So that's on the digital side. But otherwise, on the cricket side, obviously, I take quite a heavy role in the auction, and that's just optimizing the guys we have around. So the Kumar, Zubins, the analytics. The key thing is having the right debates to get to the best possible answer. So I will never input on a cricket decision from a personal perspective. It is just making sure we're asking the right questions to get to the right result. So anyway, progressed through over the years, became general manager, COO for 2 years, and then CEO last June. And then since then, we've acquired the PAL franchise recently. Barbados we acquired last year, and that sort of came into me March of this year, so just before the IPL. And look, we're trying to build a sort of franchise group that has that connectivity with fans year round, enables us to develop players, develop coaches, develop management staff, and really engage fans in each of the destinations where we launch. And then hopefully invest in grassroots cricket in those and really develop the sport. So it's always that bigger picture of transforming society, which drives us as a franchise. That is our purpose. That's number one above all. And so trying to have that impact everywhere we invest is really important to us. That's a long answer to your question, but that's the 5 years. I think you're on mute.
Nice. I was going to say that was super informative and very detailed, but I'd want to know because you took over as CEO in July 2021, I believe, of Rajasthan Royals, and that came in between the weird fragmented IPL season due to COVID. How much of a challenge has it been trying to lead franchises during this unprecedented period of COVID bubbles and uncertainty?
Yeah. I mean, look, the COVID 2 years ago, as you say, just before that period where we were in Mumbai, everything was kicking off in that space. Actually, when we went into quarantine in Mumbai was the peak of COVID in the world. And we put 150 hotel staff into quarantine to go into the bubble. They had to do 10 days. I think 60 of them went down with COVID during that quarantine period. So that shows you how present it was in the city at the time. We over prepared in terms of we had more than we needed because we knew some would get hit. But still, you're then having to put new people into quarantine. You're trying to get the players to feel comfortable and safe as they come through. And all I can say is it's been an amazing job by all of our team to have 0 COVID cases from any of our support staff, coaches, management during 2.5 years of madness. But I think it's been challenging, but it's actually brought us together really well. And even in Delhi, we were literally stuck on a floor due to COVID restrictions. And you've got guys like Chris Morris, who was on $2 million at the time. You've got guys like Kuldeep Yadav or Yashasvi Jaiswal on a lot less. And we're all literally sitting on the floor together in this corridor, just chatting, bit of music, bit of Bollywood, bit of Western, just having a great time. And I think if you remember the last game we played in Delhi that year was against Sunrisers. Joss hit an amazing century. I think we won by about 60 runs. But it could have gone one of two ways. One, you got a split, you get people frustrated, or two, you really come together because there's that bigger picture in mind. Chris never told anyone, but he donated a lot of money to support the COVID campaign at the time, as did all the rest of the group. So yeah, it was challenging, but honestly, it was one of the best learning experiences for me actually managing and leading that setup. And I think for the players, they saw the bigger picture and they were entertaining a country that had nothing else to really energize and entertain it at the time. And thankfully the situation improved post that. But yeah, it was complex, but an amazing challenge to overcome.
If I just jump in for a sec, I'm intrigued. So, are you a sports are you a sports fan? But what I mean is, I'm trying to work out how you kind of jump into the kind of IPL and the roles you had with the Royals, and obviously now you're CEO. But did you come at it with a 95% business head? I'm hoping you kind of get where I'm going with this. Did you come at it with a 95% business head and then you learn the sports aspects of it afterwards? Were there any kind of difficulties to have to overcome in terms of understanding the nuances of how the sport industry works? Or was it actually the other way around? It's actually, these are successful business principles that I know to work and are proven to work, and I can bring this to the franchise and people. Do you get where I'm going with this kind of?
Totally. I think it's so yes to the second part. I think what I love doing when I'm hiring people within the team is actually getting people from outside the sports industry who've learned in different industries, in different companies, because you bring in new insights, and diversity of thought is the key to scaling any business. So yes, the business building mentality was something that some sports organizations, they're so focused on just a specific piece of it, almost the rest gets left behind. Whereas, we see this as an opportunity to build multiple business streams. So we've got Rajasthan Royals as a major platform, 25 million followers across social channels. And what we've used that to do is we've launched an education business. We've launched an academies business. We're looking to see how we can, use that platform we've been given through the IPL to actually grow different business streams, but also support, again, the ecosystem. So with our education business, we offer free courses to everyone in the IPL and everyone in the CPL within our setup. So any of our players, women and men in the CPL and the Barbados Royals, if they want to learn about team management, if they want to learn about sports marketing, we've got these courses they can access, because again, there are so many cricketers, and once you come out, jobs are limited in the space, and we want more people to be engaged around the opportunities there and hopefully support them afterwards. So again, a long answer to your question, but yes, business building is key. I think the benefit is I always enjoyed cricket. I'm a passionate cricket fan, but I wouldn't define myself as a cricket badger, in the sense that I don't think I know better than anyone, right? So it helped because then I don't make comments on cricketers. If you're passionate and watched all your life, it's hard because you get teased into almost commenting on what you think. And so I can just say, look, we're hiring these guys for a reason, because we trust them to do the best job possible. My job is only to make sure the right questions are being asked, and then we'll get the right results. But so I think that's how I'd answer that.
What were some of the challenges? Because I'm fairly certain people want to know that. Like, I'd love to believe that you stepped across and it was instant success. and the Royals, and I'm going to call it the Royals franchise. And when I say that, I mean with respect to now the CPL with Barbados. And it's interesting that you mentioned like the Rajasthan's like media kind of setup, because it's been very evident this year, and I can tell you this almost like not just as a podcast fan, but just as a fan of CPL in general, the Barbados media setup has been very different this year. You can tell, you can just see in terms of the engagement and how it's been set up. So, but that notwithstanding, what were some of the difficulties? Maybe too strong, but what was some of the kind of
there's been a lot
that you had to step over to get to where you get to? Where it currently is. Sorry.
There's been a huge amount. I mean, the first 5 months in India was madness, right? It's a completely different culture. You land in Bombay, everything hits you. All your senses are blown away in one go. You've got, it's a different management style of people. You're coming into a sort of franchise that's been going for 13 years, but it's completely relaunching, and you're almost starting from scratch. So, I faced issues, everything from kit not arriving on time in that first year to, sponsors pulling out close to the season. There's a long list, and I say to everyone, I learned more in those first 5 months in India than I did the last 4 years, because you were just thrown into so many situations that you had never experienced otherwise. And I was lucky to have again Ranjit as a mentor there to be there to support, because my thing is I'll always be direct, and if I've done something wrong, like I've made mistakes, of course, but it would be, here's the mistake I've made, here's how I'm going to solve it, but I want you to be informed. Because again, they may have a better solution, but yeah, it's not been some easy journey. I spend 9 months of the year, 10 months of the year in India. I live there. So it's a lot of time away from friends and family, but I've built a great sort of network and group over there. But yeah, you have to make sacrifices. But I think over the 2-3 years, once you do develop those relationships, and now I've got such a good connection with a lot of the young Indian players. And that means more to me than anything else. I was speaking to someone and they asked me, it must be great having Joss and all the English guys there over the years. And I said, honestly, the relationships I value more than anything are the ones with Yashasvi Jaiswal, with Riyan Parag. These are the guys who you can really, take on a journey with. And they've got so much development to do away from cricket. And that's where I can help. So whether it's stuff just like financial management, whether it's, thinking about their brand, whether it's thinking about, how they focus themselves out of the season, I think those are things that people don't think of in the role. And there's lots of these, it's all relationship building. It's as simple as that. And it took me a bit of time and I'm still learning, but it took me a bit of time to fully understand the complexities of that. But it's absolutely the most fulfilling thing in the world once you do.
So the Rajasthan Royals last season or earlier this year, they were runners up in the IPL. So there's obviously been an improvement, and that would be down to a successful auction. Sort of in terms of the auction dynamics, how much do you ever have to step in? If it's a case of, so let's take, for example, Sangakkara likes a player, but the data analysts are saying the statistics don't support it. How do you sort of balance that intuition versus statistical analysis in terms of picking players?
Yeah, it's a good one, and that is literally that is the role, not necessarily that it's Sanger. Sanger's actually very bought into the data analytics, which made the whole process a lot easier. But there would be challenges, and there would be, data may be limited in certain areas, and you've got things like trials and otherwise for young Indian guys where there's not enough data. But I think it's making sure every question's being asked and debated. If someone has such a strong view on a player and the data says something different, we can dig into the data on that specific player and see where the misalignment's happening. And there may be, okay, it's because he's not played at this portion of the game, or when he has, it's been on really tough wickets, whatever it is. But we've got the ability to dig in and then get to a solution. The good thing is when we got to this auction, I'd say 85% was a combination of sort of analytics plus that qualitative view of our cricket leadership. So when they're matching up, it means I can just say confidently, I'm happy to invest behind this. It's when on the few that there's debate that we just really dig into the detail. And then, we have to come to a solution. So it's just about asking the right questions and getting to the bottom of that debate. Again, making sure you don't go down rabbit holes in the meantime, because cricketers can love to talk. But if you really focus them, I think that's half of it. It's just making sure you're really focused around that specific debate to get to the right answer.
And is there any examples of sort of players who you're really proud of in your tenure working at Rajasthan Royals, who have sort of exceeded expectation, or who people had doubts about and they've really thrived in the setup? Kind of, what's been your proudest examples of players you've signed, particularly maybe Indian players who have kind of gone on to exceed expectations?
Yeah, so I think one is Yashasvi Jaiswal, who I mentioned before. So he was actually, I think, the first player I met in 2017 when I went out. We were doing a trials then. I think he was only 16. And his first ball, he went across the stumps and scooped it off a pace bowler. That's his first ball in an IPL trials when you're 16 years old. I mean, that mentality just is what absolutely stands out for me with him. But he couldn't speak a word of English at that point, right? And so when I met him 2 years later, when we finally signed him, he'd been to England, he'd developed, he'd learned, but he still had a long way to go. And because, I don't know if you know his story, but because he's had such a challenging journey to get where he is, there is a different mentality there. And he had to get used to, being, comfortable within the full setup, having all of this support that he never had before. But he was so open to learning, right? And he just wanted. And so actually this summer we flew him across to England to spend some time with us there. And one of my favorite things we did is we had so Blenheim Chalcott, which is Manoj's venture builder company, every quarter, all of the companies come together and there's a presentation by a CEO of a business, right? And this quarter happened to be me. And so what I did is, obviously I spoke to start with, but I got Yash, Romy, our team manager, and Sanger up there as a panel as well, right? So Yashasvi Jaiswal, he's 20 years old. He's only just learned English over the last few years. And now he's sat in front of 200 business executives, CEOs of top companies. And I'm asking him questions. And beforehand, he's going, Jake, are you sure I can do this? This is. I said, yeah, you're going to be awesome. Just be your raw self. He's so honest in there. They will love you. And he was amazing. He was honestly amazing. And we talked about the final. He talked about enjoying the Bollywood music beforehand, just getting into the energy of it. And honestly, every single person in that room was just like blown away by him. So that's one that stands out to me. He hit a 200 double century today in the Duleep Trophy. So he's not doing too badly across the board. And I think he'll continue to progress in years to come. So he's definitely one that stands out.
So the IPL journey notwithstanding, of course, major things have taken place this year for the Royals group, the Royals franchise. And maybe it was because the success this year, of course, Santoki, there is a guy in his link. Remember, they did have Shimron in there. so the success this year, you can draw Shimron into the success. But jokes notwithstanding, obviously the purchase of Barbados, which actually happened last year's CPL, but I feel like this year is the proper launch of it. Me personally, I feel like this year's the first proper launch of Barbados Royals. And we spoke at the top about 4 from 4, life's looking good, but talk me through the process of expansion into CPL, because for the average fan and ourselves notwithstanding, all you kind of see is, well, an IPL franchise is bought into CPL and they've bought Barbados. Okay, cool. But I'd love to understand the breakdown of why Barbados. Could you have gone, for example, for the Talawars? I'm just going to randomly throw out another team, or the Amazon Warriors. What was attractive about Barbados? And then once you've then got the franchise, and it's not like the South African one where that's starting from scratch. With Barbados, they're already a team. So with a history, I should say. So what were some of the kind of challenges then to bring the Rajasthan DNA to boost in the Barbados profile to the point now, and obviously there's many years to come, but I would argue that this year people would look at the Barbados franchise and go, yeah, they're Barbados Royals, as opposed to they were the Barbados Tridents. Do you get where I'm coming from? So quite a lot for you to unpick there.
Yeah, there is a lot. And look, I think when we look to the CPL, firstly, we love it as a league. I think it's brilliant, entertaining cricket. It comes at a good time slot in the year, just post the English summer. So it's great for developing players. You know, the reason we acquire franchises is to develop players, coaches, build our fan base and support grassroots in that location. So, you know, the fact is this year we've got Corbin Bosch in there, who we've signed for all three of our franchises. You've got Obed McCoy, who we brought across from St. Lucia, and have signed for all three of our franchises. So, you know, there's that deep development impact, which then benefits all three, right? If we hadn't signed Corbin Bosch in the IPL, I guarantee no team would have signed him in CPL. But, you know, he scored 81 off 50 yesterday, and he's developing fantastically well, which is great for this league. And then I think, you know, why Barbados? It feels like the home of cricket in the Caribbean. There's just so much talent, right? So when you're looking at every youngster coming through, it feels like 80% of them are from Barbados. So it's an amazing hotbed for talent. It's a great tourist destination as well. So there's that marketing angle. I think it's a good ground, and we had good connections with the people who were selling the franchise. And so, you know, they're still minority owners within it. And I think that's really important. If you're going to be working together with people, there needs to be that connection with them. So I think talent was priority. Then there's the tourism benefit and the connection to the UK. But yeah, I mean, moving from Tridents to Royals, the year in which Barbados becomes a republic is, you know, has its own challenges, right? But I think hopefully everyone understands that, you know, Royals isn't about monarchy. It's about being royal with it, and that means caring about others before anything else. That means, you know, executing to the top of your ability. Like a royal, you know, Warney was the king of spin. Doesn't mean he's a monarch. It means he was the greatest, right? And it's inspiring all of those people within the setup to be part of this bigger Royals family, which hopefully, again, is inspirational to youngsters across Barbados and the broader Caribbean. We've got no, you know, prioritization in signing players from Barbados versus others. We want to build the best team possible and develop players across the Caribbean. That's what's really important to us. So, yeah, that's the overall picture. I think last year, as you say, we really took over a few weeks before the season started. And again, I was focused on Rajasthan at that time only. And so it was a little bit complex, and we didn't bring across our India management team. We didn't bring across our coaches. Whereas this year, you've got my full digital team is here. We've got TP, who's in both IPL and Caribbean. We've got Sid Lahiri, who runs our academies. He's also a coach in the IPL and across here. Rajamani, our S&C coach from IPL, has come across. But importantly, that's combined with brilliant local coaches in Roddy Estwick, in Trash. You've got Sharon in terms of a masseuse, and Neil Barry, who's been outstanding as a physio. So I think that combination of local world-class expertise with, you know, that IPL connection, I think has been incredibly valuable. And thankfully, relationships were long-standing, given TP's pretty much from the Caribbean. He spent so much time here. So him and Roddy are very close. But look, yeah, it's an amazing setup. The group dynamic's awesome. I think Davey Miller's done really well as captain. And I think Dapper did really well in the 60 in his first games captaining. And you can see how he's developed over the last year and a half. And Dapper, actually, just while we're on him, not many people know this, but a couple of years ago, we did get him across to IPL as a net bowler, right? And it was in Delhi at that time when all the madness was going off. And for someone to fly in the middle of COVID to literally the epicenter of COVID for his own development, to help support the team as well. He did 10 days of quarantine, came out, and the tournament was postponed the next day, right? But I met him that next day, and his attitude was outstanding. He was so positive. He just wanted to learn. Even just a few hours we were there, we spent the whole evening together. I was trying to learn more about the CPL in Barbados. And I think you've seen that maturity, that quality come through. And he's a great leader within the setup as well. And I mean, his performances speak for themselves. But I think as a person, I think he's developed immeasurably. So he's been fantastic to have as part of the setup.
Before Santoki comes in, just interested. So this is your first proper experience of CPL, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Santoki and I often say that we think CPL is the number 2 league in the world, probably because we have the advantage of. I always say that the tagline of greatest party in sport, it just sets the CPL aside from the other leagues in so much as the Caribbean populace is very unique in how we approach our cricket fandom, and obviously the music and the drinking and the dancing is very synonymous with the cricket. But I'm just intrigued as somebody who's come new to it. And it's not about comparing to IPL, but I am intrigued to see, like, what do you see as the strengths of that kind of CPL brand? And obviously, you're going to see the same thing now when you go to South Africa with there's everything. Everyone should have their own uniqueness to their brand. What have you noticed about CPL?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think CPL has done well to differentiate itself from the other leagues through being the biggest party in sport. I think, it is naturally just a much more relaxed atmosphere across the board. In St. Kitts, we were all in the same hotel, but it was just a great dynamic between the groups. Whereas IPL is, we will never stay in the same hotel as another franchise in IPL because you risk information going other ways. You want to keep your team together. You don't want any disruption. The pressure's so much higher. Sorry, someone's just stopping a phone call coming. So that's one difference. I think I'm gutted I can't go to Trinidad and Guyana because I've heard such good things about how mad the atmospheres are in those locations. So I don't even think I've seen the full the breadth of the CPL madness. But look, I think it's just brilliant atmosphere, and I think you just got to learn quickly about how to differently manage a franchise in that setup, right? We can't manage this as we would in an IPL. You have to be flexible in different areas and actually give more support in different areas. So, look, from my side, there's amazing young talent coming through, which is awesome. The atmospheres in the crowd are fantastic, and I love the music and the energy. And it's just been a fantastic learning for me. Obviously, we'd love to be in Barbados this year, but hopefully next year we'll have a good stint there because I want to see that in full flow. Because I've seen so many videos of the madness and all the fun. So, look, I think CPL, I think next year as well, there should be a better window in terms of overseas talent. Local talent is going from strength to strength in terms of I think the emerging player rule this year was really, really good to get more of those guys through. Simo has been fantastic for us in the first few matches, and he'll continue to, a great mentality, honestly. He'll continue to develop. And again, he's had quite a challenging, early part of his life, but he's just got such a great attitude, which is what I love. So I think what I've told our guys, I want to make sure we're telling more of those stories. Everyone knows IPL has so many of these stories from people with challenging backgrounds succeeding, but CPL is exactly the same. And I remember OTs. CPL did a central story on OT a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
It was incredible. I had goosebumps for the whole thing. It was quite upsetting as well, but shows what he's been through. But I think we can probably all do more to tell those stories and bring people in using that, because I think once you get a deeper connection with the players, you're just so much more invested in it. So yeah, I've absolutely loved being here. So sad that I have to go midway through, but again, have full confidence in the guys to get the job done.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. Dapper being a prime example when he came on the podcast and talking about having to go to Norway and play in the Norwegian Premier League, which is something like not a lot of people know about. Just on the nuances of the Caribbean Premier League, obviously this year we've seen a lot of franchises, Trinbago, Jamaica, Guyana in particular, sign up their own local talent. So, for instance, Nicholas Pooran going to Trinidad, Jamaica signing Brandon King. In terms of it might be early stages for you to answer. In terms of Barbados Royal strategy, are you going to be focusing more on bringing Barbados talent to the side, or do you just have an open mind and are hopeful that you can convince other players from different islands to kind of jump ship and join the Barbados Royals? Because the CPL does have that unique dynamic of franchises representing nations, which doesn't happen in any other country's franchise league.
Yeah, look, I think it's a balance. I think we're always, because of our network on the ground in Barbados, and because there's so much talent from Barbados, there's always going to be a core Bayesian sort of group within the franchise. But absolutely, we want the best talent from all over. Obed, obviously, we signed an IPL and then got across is a perfect example. And there is the vision, and I think what's really motivational for players in our setup is it's not just getting an opportunity here and hopefully winning the CPL here. It's can they potentially join us in South Africa? Can they come to IPL? We've taken Hayden across last year. We took Naeem across 2 years ago to be net bowlers with us in the IPL for their development. Right? We want to invest in these guys, and so I think that can be a massive value add and pull for them. So yeah, it'll be a balance. There'll always be a good Bayesian call, but I think the diversity of a group again is really important, and the one we've got this year, we do have a good mix, and I think they're working really well together.
If I can ask one favour, that you please let Shimon Hetmeyer stay with Guyana Amazon Warriors for a few more years until we maybe win a title or something.
I can't promise that one. I love Hetty, and he was so good for us in IPL. But yeah, I mean, what more to say?
Listen, sorry, go on,
Mash. No, go Mash, go.
I was just going to say, just very quickly, just speaking about those opportunities, because I think Dapper actually told us that story about going to IPL as well, ever so briefly. But I'm just really glad that you mentioned Ramon Simmons, because Santoki and I have been saying on previous podcast episodes, this guy's super talented. 20 years old? Yeah. He shouldn't even given the resources deficiency we have in the Caribbean, he shouldn't be that good at 20. And the kind of volume of cricket, we don't play enough cricket in the Caribbean. So not that I'm pressuring you, but send him to be a net bowler as well. and the whole Caribbean wants to see Jimbo get some deals outside of the Caribbean as well. Because in the power play, I don't think there's many players who understand the remit of power play cricket as much as Jimbo, So I thought I'd just shout out those names as well.
He's been an awesome character as well within the group. I think the good thing is he felt really comfortable. He's had absolute clarity in his role. Obviously been injured the last couple of games, but he's been explosive. He's so entertaining. So I think everyone wants to watch and enjoy. So no, totally agree. Those two are talented individuals.
Sorry, and I guess to sort of wrap up a big topic, there's been a lot of talks about the existential threat to the international game with franchise leagues cropping up and T20 leagues being prominent. Kind of what in your view, in 5 years' time, what is your sort of vision for the Royals brand and the Royals franchise? Do you imagine it'd be a case of having aligned supporters, so you have a Royal supporter who watches the South African League, the IPL, the CPL, and kind of how are you taking steps to kind of build those blocks?
Yeah, look, I think we're already seeing, our Rajasthan Royals fans following Barbados Royals now, being really excited about the Palm Royals, and that comes with consistency of players, consistency of coaching staff, management, etc. So I think that's already there. And again, digital is the platform, and our guys are fantastic at engaging fans around it. So the important thing, like from our perspective on sort of the growth of franchise cricket, is we are here to support cricket in every nation. Right? It's not to take away from the international game. It's to support the growth of more youngsters coming through. You look at Simo, right? He is going to be a great option for West Indies coming through. And I actually think as franchise sort of leagues grow and get even more professional and the quality increases, you're going to have such a stream of talent coming through that, like you see with India and England now, they can play sort of multiple squads with different formats and develop more players. You'll get that for the West Indies as well, because there's so much talent there. And actually, that will be a way of balancing the calendar more effectively. So yeah, for us, again, we want to develop players, we want to develop coaches, we want to develop management, we want to build fan bases. We'd love, all the Barbados Royals fans to be watching Rajasthan Royals, bringing them entertainment through a different time of the year following the journey of players from Barbados Royals to Rajasthan Royals to IPL Royals. I think that's exciting for cricket. But it's never to take away from international cricket. The guys are all so passionate about playing for their countries, and we want to support that. As you'd have seen in IPL, Joss, Jofra, all of those guys left previously during seasons, and actually Joss made the test team post-success in 2018 with us. Jofra had an accelerated process to become, playing for England after success. So, we're here to support people and cricketers and the broader ecosystem. So that's our focus, and that's the same, from the women's perspective. I think one of my biggest highlights from this CPL has been the women's cricket. Winning the 60 was awesome. Hayley Matthews is an outstanding individual who's going to be special for West Indies, and I think CPL have made a really, really positive step in launching that. I actually thought I told Pete Russell going into the tournament I wasn't sure about this 6 wickets thing for the 60, but actually it's made it into a really good strategic match where in T10 at the moment you just slog, and there's not too much strategy involved. Whereas this made it tactical, and teams were still scoring 164. Our women scored 110, I think, in our first match, which was Chloe Tryon was just on absolute fire. So look, I think, going back to women's cricket, I think that's super exciting as well for the growth of the game, and that's what franchise cricket can help with. Right? It can help fund the growth of women's cricket, which I think, as we've seen with Euros football, has got such growth potential. And I always tell the story about 2019 when the Women's Challenge Cup was in Rajasthan in Jaipur, and we were helping host it just to support the game. And I had some of our young players, Rian Parag, Mahipal Lomro, with me at the time. Smriti Mandana wasn't playing in the match; he was just watching, and they were whispering, "Jake, can we get a picture with her? Can we get a picture?" Right? Women's cricket in India, if you play for the Indian national side, you are a superstar. And so I've got no doubt women's IPL will be a massive success because the fandom around the national team is so huge. Again, and that will just help the whole women's cricket ecosystem. So that's another area I'm super excited about, really passionate about. And it's something we want to be at the forefront of because, there's not been enough support around the world for women's cricket over the last 10 years. Australia and England have started to stand out now, but with women's IPL, India will become the driving force. But hopefully CPL have now taken that first step to really drive with them. So that's super exciting as well.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting that Santoki and I did an episode recently where we said that in many ways with the 60, the women's 60 was more interesting to watch than the men's. And that's not to take away from the men's, but I just think you've got to think about opportunity and growth. And I think particularly within the region, within the Caribbean region, we need more cricket going on. And the 60 represented that. The women's CPL, yes, there was only 3 to 4 games of it, but it represented an opportunity to play. And I think the Royals franchise, if I'm not mistaken, has been vocal enough to say that they'd want an IPL women's franchise if they can get one. I'm not sure how it's all going to work in terms of who gets one and who doesn't get one, but I know that the Royals have been very vocal and saying, yeah, we definitely want to have a women's IPL team. So were there any lessons that you took from, I guess, not how CPL ran it, although maybe that is what I'm saying. Were there any lessons you took from, right, okay, this is how a women's competition can't look? I mean, it should be no different to a men's, but you kind of must get where I'm coming from. Were there any lessons you took from it in terms of, right, if we do get the setup for Rajasthan Royals women next year, this is some of the things I took away from what we had with Barbados Royals women, etc.?
Look, I think firstly, the main learning was the amount of talent on show, which is the first step. I think only Hayley and Dottin were playing in the 100 from a West Indies perspective, but there's so much more talent there, which is really exciting. I think the importance of developing female coaches as well is really important. We had a great assistant coach, Samantha, with our setup, and it was just an amazing development experience for her. So I think that was really valuable. And again, I just think the way in which the women's team integrated so quickly, so many different countries, from all over the Caribbean, as well as the world, I think was just really, really impressive. And so I think the fact that you can have a successful tournament in such a short space of time, the 60 was run in a week, but was super engaging. They played each other twice. It felt like a proper competition. I think was really valuable. And what I think it does is it gives the opportunity that the 60 for women doesn't need to just be before the CPL. there's no reason there couldn't be multiple women's 60s across the year, right? As you say, there are gaps in the female cricket calendar. Why not hold another one, right? Why not hold 2 or 3 across the year and give them that buzz and engagement and develop an opportunity at different times? So I think that's what's really exciting as well. You can hold a quality tournament in a week and get people really engaged around it, and that will be massive for the development of women's cricket in the Caribbean.
Yeah, well, so much to unpick for me. I mean, we could talk for hours about cricket, but I'm sure you've got a tight schedule. So, I guess, what other than the general fear that Shimon Hetmyer is going to go to Barbados Royals next year, it's been a great episode. But I think what you sort of proven is there tends to be, particularly from those who don't actually watch it, a cynical view of franchise cricket, that you sort of throw money at experienced players, they come for a short period of time and that's it. It's all about making money. But I think your enthusiasm and passion for particularly developing young players across the regions has really come out, and it's really been a pleasure to talk to you. So yeah, absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, Jake.
No, thank you guys. I've really enjoyed it. And so to end on this, but we're not making profit in South Africa. We're not making profit in the Caribbean at the moment, right? So we are losing money in these spaces, but for us, because we're developing talent, player coaching, management, etc., that's worth it. So these aren't sort of actually pure profit plays. These are developing cricket plays which help the Royals franchise. So no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully the Royals continue the form that we're going on, and we can get a second trophy this year. But thanks so much for your time, guys.
I just want to say, Jake, before you go, that I'm assuming, given how bad the Royals have, the then Trident / Royals have been in the past until this takeover, I'm hoping that you are just their lucky charm, and that when you fly off to where you need to go, that it paves the way through for the Tallawahs to come and win the competition. So well done on 4 out of 4, but I cannot support you winning any more after this.
Honestly, there was, during the IPL, I went out the bubble for 2 matches when all our investors came over, and we lost both matches. So I was straight back in, and thankfully we got through to the final. But no, I think the form will continue. The setup is awesome, and TP, Roddy, and the guys are going to lead them to the trophy, hopefully. So apologies for you guys having to suffer a little bit. Jamaica are doing well, but I
was going to say, it's just Santoki we need to talk to here. It's only him you need to help.
Let me just sign off now. Yeah.
I was going to say, you might suffer on Sunday, but we'll see.
But just to echo what Santoki says, Jake, thank you so much for taking some time. I love that conversation. Like I say, it's only been like a 45-minute chat, but that felt like we went into a lot of detail in that 45 minutes. So really appreciate you taking the time to just share some of those gems with us, and we wish you well.
No, appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully catch you in person some point in the future.
No worries. So, ladies and gents, we hope you enjoyed that episode with Jake Lush McCrum. Of course, as usual, share this, comment, like, subscribe, whatever you're listening to, whether this has been on YouTube or on the audio platforms, etc. And as Jake says, the Barbados Royals are a very exciting team this year. So if you haven't picked a CPL side, and Santoki and I haven't managed to convince you to back Jamaica or Guyana, we will allow you to back the Barbados Royals this year in the CPL campaign. But that's been episode 73 of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.